Speak Now Taylor's version is almost here, and it's been a long time coming that I've been needing to talk about these vault tracks. And here I am today to share with you my predictions based off of my, extensive historical understanding of the Taylor Swift iconography. Here's my understanding of what I think these vault tracks are going to be, my predictions of how they're going to interact with the rest of the album, and also, kind of my personal feelings on which songs that I will or won't like the most. Now, before I get into all of this juice that I have been dying to give to you because I haven't talked to you in forever, my name is Zach, I am the Swiftologist, and I make thoughtful weekly videos about pop culture. And I would like to say thank you to the very first sponsor of Swiftologist, Surfshark VPN, for sponsoring this video. I am going to get all into the juice and the meat of why I think Surfshark can work for you if you are a Swiftie, especially if you are a Swiftie that is trying to get tickets to, an Eras Tour international date that may not be in your country of origin. I'm going to expand on our first amazing sponsor a little bit later in this video, but, to give you a brief summary of what to expect, Surfshark VPN, which is a virtual private network, keeps your online identity safe by encrypting all of the information sent by your device and the internet, which helps keep your personal data, which everybody is trying to steal at the moment, protected from big companies or cyber criminals. It can also allow you to swap the real location of where you are in order to access things that may be out of reach to you. Perhaps, if Taylor were to drop another signed album, say Speak Now Taylor's version had signed copies available and the international option sold out and you had to order from the US store, but it wasn't going to let you because your IP address was from outside of the country, well, that's where a VPN can change the game. So how are we all feeling about Speak Now Taylor's version coming out? I have had a couple of messages from people saying that they feel like it's kind of getting neglected when it's compared to like the Fearless Taylor's version or the Red Taylor's version Rollout, and I am inclined to agree, but I think it's kind of canonical that Speak Now does not get an elaborate rollout or paid a lot of attention to because it is kind of the forgotten stepsister of the Taylor Swift discography, which is atrocious to me, but that's kind of always been the way that it is. Since the Speak Now era happened, it hasn't had an over-active presence in the Taylor Swift world and universe. In future tours, it didn't have very prominent spots on the set list, and I think that that's because Speak Now really is, until Taylor's version is coming out now, and if you know kind of record. It didn't have any like memorable, huge radio hits. It was really a writerly album, and the record as a total whole of itself intended to serve a different purpose than chasing commercial success, though it was still very commercially successful, even compared to like contemporary artists that we consider to be hot right now. It just, I guess, in comparison to Taylor's other huge, like behemoth soaring successes like 1989 or Folklore or Red even, it kind of pales in comparison to that level of cultural penetration. And I think we might be seeing a little bit of a resurgence with Speak Now Taylor's version, but I also think that, a lot of people don't have enough taste to really appreciate it the way that it deserves to be appreciated. But these vault tracks, I am so excited, okay? This is truly a unique experience because the Fearless Taylor's version vault tracks were, half of them were songs that were taken from the debut era writing sessions that we had already heard. You All Over Me, We Were Happy, That's When. Like, we knew that those songs were, or Bye Bye Baby, iterations of things that we'd heard before, or at least if you were a diehard that has, been stalking the unreleased areas of Taylor Swift's discography for many years, you would know about. Red TV, we also had some predictable inclusions on that, like Babe and Better Man, and the, addition of All Too Well 10 was a surprise, but it was something that we kind of knew about before. The Speak Now vault tracks, I had never heard of half of this shit. This shit is in different areas, okay? The one thing that we absolutely knew was going to be on the Speak Now TV vault, and if you follow my podcast, Evolution of a Snake, you know that my co-host Madeline and I have been banging on about this lost number for years, but it's Castles Crumbling. And the name of that song is so interesting, and we're going to get into that when I go through my in-depth predictions or vibe checks on what all of these songs are going to be. And before we do that, I'm going to tell you exactly why Surfshark is the best VPN to use if you're a Swiftie. So the first scenario in which Surfshark could really change your life as a Swiftie is by being able to change your virtual location. Surfshark has over 3,200 servers in 100 countries, which is kind of an insane array of options to choose. And as we know, Taylor is touring all over the world. I personally use Surfshark after I got my code to try it out when they decided to collaborate with me. I used to change my IP address to Tokyo so that I could register for Taylor Swift Eras Tour Tokyo, Japan tickets. There was an American Express presale, which I qualified for, but the online form, no matter what I did, even after I got my local Japanese friend's phone number, was not letting me submit my registration. Once I was able to actually change my IP address, I kind of got to trick the system a little bit and was able to actually register presale for all 4 Tokyo shows, which was crazy, and I would not have been able to do it without Surfshark. So if you are trying to get Eras Tour international tickets anywhere else outside of the United States and you are not based wherever you're trying to buy tickets, you have got to look into changing your virtual location. Another Another way that this came in really handy for me recently was I was trying to watch Lana Del Rey's Glastonbury set. Yes, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. It was cut short, but I wanted to see the mess. I wanted to see the mess. And even though I'm in Ireland, which is close to the UK, they would not let me in. They said that this content was for UK residents only. And so what did I do? Bleep, bloop, bloop. I went on Surfshark and I changed my location to the United Kingdom. Bing, bang, boom. 1, 2, 3. I was there at Glastonbury practically watching Lana Del Rey sing the Grants live. What Surfshark VPN does is it masks your IP address, and that is the most essential thing that you need to do to secure your personal information. A VPN makes sure that your city, your country, your download history, that information is not available to bad actors, which is something that we all need to be more mindful of as cyber phishing attempts get more and more advanced. Who wants to be scammed while they're trying to get Eras Tour tickets or trying to refresh a page to buy resale tickets in the airport? Certainly not I. So you're basically flying private like Taylor Swift on her 13 jet on the internet. Get an exclusive deal with the code Swiftologist and get 3 months free. I will link it in the description and pin it in the comments too. Now let's get right into my vault track analysis and predictions. Electric Touch featuring Fall Out Boy. This is the first vault track. Madeline, again, the co-host of my podcast, Evolution of a Snake, told me that I was insane for listening to the vault tracks in order, but that's kind of just how I like to do it. I like to listen to all of the vault tracks first so that my mind is like crisp and fresh and ready, and then go into the entire album, the standard edition from start to finish. I may regret that decision because it seems like the first track of the vault tracks, Electric Touch featuring Fall Out Boy, is going to be fucking insane. And why? That's because I think that this song is a true wild card for me. I can't imagine her roping a band that is like, that has the gravitas and the energy of a band like Fall Out Boy, noted pop punk legends, without a proper quality of material. She's got to have the appropriate track for them to be on. She's not going to bring them on Last Kiss. And I mean, I'm sure you are familiar, but if you're not familiar, Fall Out Boy are a fairly intense pop punk band, which may seem like the antithesis of Speak Now Fairy Tale Taylor, but pop punk and pop rock in general was actually kind of a significant musical influence for Taylor while she was writing this record. And she spent a lot of time in the interim period between Fearless and Speak Now hanging out with the likes of Hayley Williams from Paramore. She also kindled a friendship during this time with Katy Perry, an ill-fated friendship, but a friendship nonetheless, who was at the time the reigning queen of the poppiest pop rock. Her first album, One of the Boys, was very like live instrument driven. It was like punky, shouty girl, which I think was something that Taylor was very drawn to and something that she wasn't really convinced that she could do. The music that was really popular at this time when Taylor was in between writing Fearless and Speak Now was either that kind of like electro synth heavy stuff, which she didn't really want to lean into until she was feeling a little bit more grown up on Red, or it was that rock light, live instrument heavy, kind of energetic, bright, upbeat, but kind of edgy but with mainstream appeal. You can definitely see this influence all over this record, whether it's on songs like The Story of Us, Better Than Revenge, or Haunted. Some of the top performing artists in the year that Taylor was making this record were The Fray, The All-American Rejects, King of Leon, and Boys Like Girls, who we know she ended up working with Martin Johnson, the lead singer of that band, on If This Was a Movie. But it wasn't just the dedicated like pop rock acts that were playing into this trend and this fad, I would say, even though it's having a renaissance right now. It was everywhere, from Kelly Clarkson's I Do Not Hook Up to Rihanna's Disturbia. Pop rock was definitely having a moment in the late 2000s and the early 2010s. My educated guess here is that, behind the scenes, the inner workings of Speak Now, we know that Scott Borchetta had a pretty heavy hand in helping guide Taylor on what kind of musical decision she was going to make. In fact, he was the one who told her to change the title of this record from Enchanted to Speak Now to signal a more grown-up approach to her career. But my feeling on this is that there was only a certain amount of pushing the boat out Taylor could do production-wise. We know that sonically she butted heads with Scott many times when she tried to veer away from that very straight kind of country pop path she had charted with Fearless. That went on as late as 1989, when she really had to struggle not to tack on 2 or 3 country songs to a record that she wanted to be purely pop. I wonder if Electric Touch is maybe a harder, grittier song that was kind of purposefully shelved because it was going too far in the opposite direction of being a country pop singer-songwriter. I also think there may be something a little bit scandalous or risque here. Nothing crazy, but maybe an element of like, is it too much too soon for the Taylor Swift brand that is still courting such a young audience? Kind of similar to how The Lucky One ended up being like a watered down version of Nothing New. I do wonder if Electric Touch is maybe the kind of darker, edgier, older sister of a song like Sparks Fly, which actually is kind of like sexy and sensual if you really think about it, and was also written a long time before the Speak Now writing sessions even happened. So I definitely think that there are layers to unpack with this song, and I can't wait to see how her vocals meld with Fall Out Boy. The last time it happened when she sang My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark on the Victoria's Secret fashion show, it was a serve. So I'm hopeful about this one. I expect live heavy instruments. I expect insane vocals. I really hope it doesn't go the same way as her collab with another pop rock legend, Brendan Urie, but I'm pretty excited and intrigued by this. Okay, now we have When Emma Falls in Love. And when I saw this title, my flop radar went off. My flop radar was going ding, ding, ding. This is not going to be good. I'm presuming this is about Emma Stone, who she was very good friends with at the time. I mean, I think the song can go in one of two directions. It can go in the You Are in Love direction, which is Taylor like sweetly observing a kind of like pure or beautiful love and admiring it objectively, kind of in a folklore-esque style way, you know, writing stories about other people. Or it could go in the direction of, I hate my life so much, my friend is falling in love, and I want to fall in love, and why isn't it me? I think the second option would be more interesting, but the first one is probably more likely. I think there could be something really interesting and cool about the intensity of a female friendship and love envy, how one often feels left behind when their friends barrel towards a new relationship, and you lose some of that friendship intimacy that only two single people can have. But I think we're in for a pretty straightforward, sappy song here. I don't know why, but it's just giving me Never Grow Up production vibes. That's kind of my instinctive, intuitive read on how it's going to be. I Can See You. Okay, flop radar went off on this one too. I had the same response to this that I had when I saw the title question ... on Midnights. I was so certain that was going to be a flop, and yet it ended up being an intergalactic sleigh. So like, really, what do I know about anything? But this song is just another mystery to me. I can't really picture what it's going to be like, but I think there are definitely two sides to the record, Speak Now in general. There's this wide-eyed optimism of being a young girl falling in love, getting some agency in this world, really trying to figure out who you are outside of your family unit, like having real feelings and experiences instead of these kind of like half-life experiences that you project onto and elaborate on and dream of as teenagers are wont to do. The other side of this album is a lot darker. It's a lot more cutting and frankly upsetting. It's about the realization that sometimes things fall apart and can't be put back together. You know, if the chain is on your door, I understand, back to December-esque. And Never Grow Up, where she's kind of even reckoning and grappling with her mortality. There's always been this kind of like dark, mature cunningness to Speak Now, and I'm really excited to see if maybe we get some of that on this mysterious track. You know, sometimes people do things to you that you could have never predicted or expected, even though you think that you've had your heart shattered and you think that you know everything about everything, which is kind of the space that Taylor was in at this point, and that any young girl or young person is in their like late teens and early 20s. You think you have it all figured out. You feel very sure. You feel very confident that you know what the right thing to do is. You know what the correct course of action is. You know how everyone else around you should act. And, you know, I just want to point to the lyrics and nothing new. How can a person know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? Speak Now, the writing sessions kind of happened in between that realization of knowing everything at 18 and then feeling like you know nothing and you're starting over at 22. So I think that a lot of kind of like the first blows to the ego started happening around this time. I mean, especially with one specific relationship. And I think we all know who that is. But as I mentioned earlier, she has this recognition on Never Grow Up that like life is fleeting and you are not in fact immortal as you may feel that you are when you're young. You think you have all these years ahead of you, but in fact, like life is a finite resource. And that lyric, I just realized everything I have is someday going to be gone, is a very kind of like growing up recollection and realization to have. And there are a lot of complex and often conflicting feelings on this record, which I think is really interesting. We have Enchanted versus Dear John. So we have that like hopeful ridiculousness, that swooning, that falling in love without a second glance, without even having a proper conversation with the object of your desire. And then we have Dear John, which is kind of like the natural consequence of like giving all of yourself up to someone without kind of doing your due diligence or putting yourself in a position of vulnerability and then regretting it afterwards. We also have Sparks Fly versus Last Kiss. Sparks Fly, again, is kind of that like surrender, that willingness to be open and just to be really kind of like whimsical and romantic about a new situation. And then Last Kiss is reckoning with picking up the pieces of that and trying to figure out who to be once it's over. Now that I think about it, Speak Now is really about like beginnings and endings. I Can See You sounds to me like it could maybe be of the Hours and Superman ilk. I see you for who you are, regardless of what anyone else has to say. I love you so much. Or it could be maybe something a little bit more snide, a bit more cunning knowingness. Finally realizing that the person that you're with is maybe not who you thought they were. I think there are probably only two bangers that are going to be on this Vault track list, and those two Vault track bangers are, in my opinion, Electric Touch and Castles Crumbling, and the rest will either be like sad ballads or mid-tempo, kind of sweet but forgettable songs. And I think I Can See You and When Emma Falls in Love might have like that Run featuring Ed Sheeran vibe. Do you know what I'm saying? Castles Crumbling featuring Hayley Williams. Okay, for the girlies who have been there from the start and were reading Taylor's Inner Circle and trying to figure out what kind of, you know, unrelated unreleased material was out there. This is the white whale of Taylor Swift unreleased songs. For the uninitiated, there was a culture of trading songs, getting rare songs, and sharing them with others if you so chose. Also, keeping them from others. That was a whole part of the culture as well. There were no songs really past Fearless that were included in this trading, but there was, as I just mentioned, a demonic organization called Taylor's Inner Circle who did have some of them that other people didn't have and had descriptions of the songs. They knew of Castles Crumbling, but even they, the most innermost access to Taylor's, inner workings of her career, I don't know what kind of access they have. They knew Folklore was going to come out before it came out. Like, this insider information has been going on for years, literally from the very beginning of Taylor's career. But even they didn't know about this song. So this is a true From the Vault song because we have known about it for years, but we've never heard anything concrete about it. And this just makes my excitement level for it so dangerously high. Like, my expectations are so high that I fear they can only be dashed. I've just been building this up in my mind for way too long. The fact that Hayley Williams is on it is just, the icing on the cake. And it leads me to believe that there's something very major about the vocal stylings on this track. There are rumored lyrics out there that have been floating around for a while, and I don't know how implausible they are. I probably think they're not true, but they kind of remind me of Mr. Perfectly Fine if they are in fact true. So it's not totally, unfeasible that those lyrics are from Castles Crumbling. Judging by those lyrics, I would like something a little bit more complex, but I would be happy with anything regardless. Like, I just need to hear this fucking song. It's been too long. Fairy Tale theme was definitely very much in heavy rotation at this stage in her career. I mean, she wanted to call the album Enchanted, and she looks like a fairy tale princess on the cover of it. So the Castles Crumbling lore is that it's something a little bit darker, heavier, more pop rock in the way that Better Than Revenge and The Story of Us was, and certainly not a love song, as we can tell. It's interesting to hear the Castles Crumbling title. It's like the metaphorical dissolution of her innocence somehow. And I think there's going to be a video for this one. And if I can put my tin hat on for a second, I think she's going to make it about the reclamation of her masters. I'm basing this off of that photo that emerged of her in Liverpool shooting a video where she's wearing the gold Speak Now tour dress and carrying a big frame. Inside that frame, I thought was the Speak Now Taylor's version cover. We also know that there was a museum inside of all these Speak Now artifacts. I think that Castles Crumbling sounds like something that could fit in with the struggle to own her masters. I don't really know how exactly it would, but Taylor loves to make connections even when there aren't any. So I could definitely see her doing something with this, and I am excited. So actually, excited is not the right word. I am jazzed to see where this is going to go. Foolish One. Okay, so I think this could be an extension of that idea she presented in Dear John, which is I should have known, that kind of regretful sadness and shame, a vibe that isn't really taking accountability, but living in a state of pain and regret. Or I think Foolish One could be a Back to December continuation where she expands on leaving Taylor Lautner for John Mayer and, only in hindsight realizing what a colossal mistake that was to choose exciting over safe and nice. And however, that is a pattern, to choose exciting over safe and nice that she has, had to fight and also give into at certain points in relationships over and over again throughout her career. Most recently, we see this dynamic at play on Midnight Rain. So I would be super curious to hear that dynamic explored a little bit more. Finally, we have Timeless. And this is such an interesting one, and honestly a song that I never expected to be on Speak Now TV. I was kind of expecting it on 1989 or Reputation because there's definitely a history and a mystery with this song. So in the interim period between 1989 and Reputation, when we were all kind of half convinced she was never going to come back and we didn't know what was going on, and Taylor had kind of half announced her comeback by wiping all of her socials and uploading those 3 videos of the snake on her Instagram. Iconic. We all put on our tin hats and speculated that the album was called Eclipse because there was a solar eclipse that week and it was a very unique event. I don't think that it happens every day to have a solar eclipse. And we were convinced that the lead single was going to be called Timeless. And we thought this because the domain name timeless.com was bought by a Taylor Swift registered address for $150,000 in the summer of 2017, and a URL appeared with a line saying Timeless coming soon. I remember this so clearly. It is burned onto the back of my eyelids. I was so convinced that that was going to be the name of the first single from what ended up being Reputation, but we heard nothing from it since. So, I mean, there's something really puzzling here about why, if this in fact was a sign of her maybe putting out this song, why it was going to come out around then. I don't know what it could possibly be about. We will only be able to, I guess, put any of those pieces together when I actually get to hear the song. But anyway, this song kind of gives me upbeat banger vibes. I said there were only 2, but now I'm kind of thinking there might be 3 or 4. But It gives me We Never Go Out of Style, A Timeless Love, etc., etc. And we see in these vault tracks that Taylor does return to themes and ideas over and over again, reusing lines, trying out different iterations of things. Most recently, I think that we saw this in, Casually Cruel, heard on Mr. Perfectly Fine, and then reused in a much better and more effective way on All Too Well. But I think that this might be something like The Very First Night. Frothy, fun, nothing too weighty, but then again, it could veer into nothing new territory. That anxiety of like having to stay relevant and like trying to reinvent yourself over and over again. Although it was kind of early in her career, so I don't know that she was feeling that specific pressure right around then. But who knows what could happen. Now I'm going to rank them in order of what I anticipate is going to be my preference, but I don't think that's going to be accurate. I'm going to do it anyway just based off of vibes alone. I'm putting Castles Crumbling at number 1. Duh. That's the one that I'm most looking forward to and I think is going to be a banger. I'm not super into Fall Out Boy. That was never really my bag. It was a little bit too far in the punk direction. I'm definitely more of a pop enjoyer, especially like female pop artists, which is why I think I was able to tolerate Paramore a little bit more than bands like Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance, The All American Rejects. That just really wasn't my bag. So I'm not going to put Electric Touch at number 2. I'm going to put it at number 3. And at number 2, I'm going to put Timeless. I don't know why. I'm just like, I'm excited about the lore of it all and I wonder what it's going to sound like. Number 4, I think I'm going to put Foolish One. That's after Electric Touch. And number 5, I'm going to put I Can See You. And number 6 is going to have to be When Emma Falls in Love. Like, I just don't anticipating that being a song that I would enjoy. I think it might fall into that category of songs that I really think are too saccharine and don't like Stay, 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 Paper Rings, Daylight, that kind of thing. Something a little bit too obvious or on the nose for me. But, I'm ready to be proven wrong. Prove me wrong, mother. Give me every single best song you ever have ever made in your vault, and I will bow down and worship. But until then, I'm going to do a little judging. I put out a call for questions about Speak Now TV, what to expect, what the predictions are on the Evolution of a Snake Instagram. So I'm going to answer some of your questions now. Someone said, what songs will get the girl at home treatment? If you're not familiar, the girl at home treatment is when Taylor doesn't care enough about a song to re-record it the way that it was originally recorded it, and she instead gets a bunch of pots and pans together and bangs them over her head and shouts and farts into the microphone. That is what happened to Girl at Home on Red, which is why we call it the Girl at Home effect. So, the obvious choice here is to do better than Revenge, but I think that if we are leaning into this pop punk side of Speak Now a little bit more, and all signs are pointing to absolutely doing that, then maybe she's going to leave Better Than Revenge alone. Maybe she's not going to mess it up at all. If I were her, I would mess up Innocent, because I don't want to rehash that discourse with Kanye anymore. I want that to be buried, dead, and gone. Innocent, no offense to people that are Innocent enjoyers, it's not the best song in the world. So if she messed that one up, I don't think I would be mad about it. Now, in terms of re-recordings that I think are just going to be bad, I don't have high hopes for Mean. I don't have high hopes for Mean, but I also didn't have high hopes for Hey Stephen, and Hey Stephen ended up banging harder than it had ever banged to me before on the re-recording. So sometimes I think it's kind of cute to hear her big girl voice, but then it really depends on how committed she is to the bit. If she's phoning it in with some of the songs, I think it's really obvious and you can tell. And, Forever and Always was kind of phoned in. Don't understand why. Doesn't make sense to me. I Knew Your Trouble was kind of phoned in. Again, I don't understand why. That also doesn't make sense to me. But it's kind of random. And I don't think that it's likely that every single re-recording is going to be a slay. And that's fine, because I love just, listening and telling the difference. And I will always have the stolen versions to listen to if I want to. Yes, I will. Do you think we'll have an Enchanted music video? Okay, so the rumor is that there are 2 videos, a short film and a music video for an existing song. The short film thing, please God, enough. Please relent. Taylor, just be a musician. Be a pop star. You're so fucking good at it. You're literally the biggest pop star in the world. Can we leave the realm of script writing and directing? Can we just put that aside and focus on the music? I would like to do that. So if the short film is just a long music video, then I will accept it. Because as we all know, All Too Well 10 was not in fact a short film. It was a music video with some improvised dialogue by 2 actors. I don't want any more dialogue. No dialogue. So sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there. I think there might be, if there is a song that is going to get a music video treatment, it's Enchanted. Enchanted deserves, it's the most cinematic, it's the most visual. It's also the clear kind of standout. It's the sleeper hit of Speak Now. The lead single, Mine, I love, everybody loves, but it hasn't really become a thing that people are obsessed with. Sparks Fly, I guess, would be kind of the second choice, but it had a tour visual already. So in her mind, that probably counts as a video. Enchanted didn't get any visuals whatsoever. We just got the one Wonderstruck commercial. And if this video is anything like that Wonderstruck commercial, then I will be eating good. Thoughts on previously leaked tracks not making it to the vault? I know there's no love lost for you for Battle. Yes, there is no love lost for me for Battle, and I also resent the idea that that was meant for Speak Now. To me, that even sounds like it was for Fearless. To me, her voice in the demo and the quality of the writing is very fearlessy, and it doesn't even come close to matching the par of the content that was on Speak Now. The only song that I was kind of surprised not to see on the vault track list was Drama Queen, which leaked with Need and All of the Girls. I am obsessed with that song. It's so good. It does get better than Revenge vibes, but it also kind of gives Mr. Perfectly Fine vibes. So I don't understand like where she would even place that if it was to go on a vault track list at some point. It really should have gone on Fearless, but you know, I thought it might make an appearance on Speak Now. Kind of disappointed that it didn't, but again, is it up to par with what's on that record? The level of literosity and iconicness? I don't think so, but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get that. What is your opinion on the collabs? Do they fit Speak Now? So like I said, I think that there is that kind of darker undercurrent to Speak Now that was maybe, I guess, focus grouped or like workshopped out of existence by various forces that be that decide more than Taylor Swift does what goes into an album and how an album is like promoted or marketed. We know Taylor to have a lot of agency in her career, of course, especially now, but back then it seemed, and she's hinted, that there have been a lot of kind of like power dynamics and like struggles behind the scenes. And she was also like, what, 18, 19, 20 years old when she was doing this record. I think if someone said to her, you know, you're not going to sell an arena if you put out an album that's entirely pop punk, she would have been like, you know what, fair enough. Let me see if I can dial it down on some of these songs. So to me, knowing that we have Better Than Revenge and The Story of Us and how those songs could have really taken off if she had lent into that production even more, both of those collaborations fit. I am less inclined to go with a Fall Out Boy collab just because I feel like it's a little bit too shouty. I know that Hayley Williams can really sing when she wants to sing, so I am more inclined to enjoy the Hayley Williams rather than the Fall Out Boy thing, but again, I will reserve my judgment until I am gifted with the songs. Do you think people are only going to focus on Dear John? Actually, no, because I think a lot of people are going to focus on the collaborations, and that was probably an intentional move on her part to put these kind of iconic, nostalgic throwback collaborations on this record to, drum up some attention for the record that did not revolve around the ex-boyfriends. It seems that she is a little bit sick of people coming after the men when she makes these reappearances. And I kind of get it, because it must feel a little bit like putting bad karma out into the universe. Like, you already kind of took your shot at these men the first time that it came out. Like, we did the slander campaign. We did the group harass and the group target of all these men before. And I think that Taylor is like slowly starting to realize that her fan base's actions reflect poorly on her. So when people are in John Mayer's Instagram DMs telling him to unalive himself, that kind of reflects badly on Taylor. So that's why I think she performed Dear John on tour and also kind of neutralized it a little bit by giving that speech beforehand saying she doesn't care what happened to her at 19. That doesn't make any sense because of woulda, coulda, shoulda. And also, don't you think 19's too young to be played by your dark, twisted games when I loved you so? Period. But to answer your question, no. I think that there's plenty of juice on Speak Now, and like so much of it that hasn't been discovered by newer fans because, you know, there's just so much material to go through. And Speak Now, to be frank, is the most exciting album for them when you have albums like 1989 and Reputation that are easier listening. So I think people will be delving into this and realizing there's so much more to discover than just like a Dear John element. I think Enchanted is going to get the most attention and the vault tracks. That's my feeling on it. But justice for Mine, honestly. We all need to start talking about Mine, okay? There's a lot of juice and information that has been revealed on that song. If you want really detailed information on all of the songs on Speak Now from someone who was there and listened to it and went through all of it and considers himself to be a Taylor Swift academic, then go and watch my Speak Now album breakdown. I put that out, I think, last year. It's almost an hour long and it's very, very detailed. So go and watch that if you want more information on like who all of these songs were about, what the lore behind them is, how fans responded to them at the time. I really kind of went into the details on that. Do you think there will be a major flop vault track? Yes. And I think there always will be, because these are cutting room floor excerpts, right? Like, for one reason or another, they didn't end up making it onto the album. And very occasionally, it's a crime that they didn't make it. For Fearless, there was one song that kind of deserved to be on the album, Mr. Perfectly Fine. Red, I mean, Nothing New was really good. All Too Well 10 doesn't really count as a vault track because it's an expanded version of a song we already have. Better Man obviously deserved as well. But I would say outside of that, you know, none of them were like excellent songs. Some of them, in fact, were bad. Message in a Bottle. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't slap and I don't enjoy bopping to it, but that is a bad song. More often than not, there is a good enough reason or better songs on the standard edition that could have replaced anything that a vault track would have brought. This is not a question, but someone said that Timeless is going to be a Long Live or You're on Your Own Kid type of song, a coming-of-age love letter to her fans. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's about never going out of style and loving someone and having a relationship that stands the test of time. That's what it could be about. Could it even be about her parents' relationship? We know there's a lot of things to unpack there, and I won't expand on that. Will any previously mid-sized songs be revitalized and become a supermodel? Listen, when you go to the Eras tour, you realize that every song is a supermodel song. Someone around you knows every single word to every single song that is being played. So it is truly, I think, misguided to say that any Taylor Swift song is very underrated. I can think of like 5 songs maybe that just do not get attention, but I think maybe Sparks Fly is going to have a bit of a resurgence. And Sparks Fly just is a really good pop song, and it's really fun, and it's very kind of like girly and romantic. I could definitely see Sparks Fly having its moment again. It definitely did have its moment with the Speak Now era, but I think people kind of forgot about it. I'm not confident that mine is going to get the dues it deserves, just because I don't think people get it. People don't get it. And they weren't in college working part-time waiting tables, leaving a small town and never looking back. That was just not their experience. Neither was it Taylor Swift's, though, and she managed to serve it. So maybe people will get back into mine. Why do you think there's been so little promo in comparison to Red TV? Red TV was the big get. Keep in mind that Fearless TV also came out when we were still going through a global health crisis, and she wasn't really able to do the level of promotion that she was able to do for Red. So I think that Red was kind of like the first big push for a re-release, a re-recording, trying to get everyone to pay attention, not just the diehard fans. And she had an exclusive to give. She had the All Too Well 10-minute version. She'd been sitting on this gold mine. She knew that that song had resonated and connected with people already, and people were excited to hear the 10-minute version. There was like an instant marketing campaign built into that with all of the lore behind it. The very kind of frantic nature of the stylistic experiments that were going on that record meant that the vault tracks were super diverse and quite interesting. So I think she knew that she was sitting on a gold mine there, and I think that the order of release of the albums really has more to do with what has the most potential to really make a splash. And I think in between really big releases like Red Taylor's version and maybe something like 1989 Taylor's version, or even Reputation, because there's a lot of lore behind like Karma if she really wanted to lead into that, I think that Speak Now comparatively is a little more boring. Like there isn't going to be a lot of like juice or material unveiled on these vault tracks. I think that they're just going to be good songs. Like I don't think they're going to be anything like All Too Well 10, etc., etc. And Speak Now was never really her most popular album commercially to begin with. So I think that you invest the promo into the projects that you know are really going to kind of take and elevate your career to another level. Also, I think she's being careful not to oversaturate the re-recording. She's still trying to make them feel special and like an event of their own. So I think that maybe doing one or two kind of more quietly, like Fearless was a bit more quietly in my opinion, and so is Speak Now. I think she's doing that to let the bigger albums that may, you know, capture more attention breathe and really have their moment. She's also on tour, and I think that tour is like a big enough vehicle to be promoting. Like we're going to be seeing more Speak Now songs as secret songs, and the fans will do the promotional work herself. Taylor doesn't even really need to lift a finger. People are still going to go mental for this album. Eras has really kind of inspired this new generation of Taylor mania, and I'm definitely going to make a video on this soon, because this phenomenon of like there being some sort of erasure of a casual fan, there's no such thing as like a casual Taylor Swift fan anymore. Suddenly, because of TikTok and the Eras tour, everybody is a diehard Swiftie, and it's like, you know, I'm not at the door checking your credentials, but it's not possible that we have this many veteran fans in the place, okay? Debut sold 46,000 copies, or however many it was, 60,000 copies. It didn't sell 100 million copies in its first week. Okay, so let's stop the stolen valor. None of the titles sound like they're dragging John Mayer over the coals enough. I mean, does she need to drag him anymore? Would've, could've, should've, and Dear John are damning, searing indictments. Like truly, after Dear John, there's nothing even really left to be said about that. Like I feel like I have a full and complete understanding of what that situation was to her, how it affected her, how he behaved, and I kind of don't need clarity on that anymore. I'm more looking forward to banging out and jamming. I'm less interested in kind of mining for, you know, details of what went on. I think with All Too Well 10 and with the Jake Gyllenhaal relationship in general, that was very mysterious to us, and she kind of brushed over it after Red. But the John Mayer thing, like, could we have been more clear on Dear John? It really couldn't have been more clear than that. Do I think Taylor will change Better Than Revenge? Now, there was a time when I thought that Better Than Revenge would succumb to girl wash foolishness, but I think that it's safe. I think it's going to be marked safe. And, you know, maybe she'll make a funny comment about it. She'll play it live as a surprise song. Watch. She's going to play it live as a surprise song and talk about how, you know, this is just silly, good fun. And she, you know, had her feminist awakening, blah, blah, blah. And now we just look at this song as a kiki. Feminism off, Better Than Revenge on. I think that's what she's going to do. It also wasn't a single, so I don't think it's really going to command that much attention outside of the fandom. We all have a warped perspective of like how much these things matter because we are invested in the life and times. Not everyone is that invested, let me tell you. Even the people who pretend they're number one Swifties and need to go to every show of the Eras tour, they don't care. What's your favorite Speak Now track? It changes. I mean, usually it's if this was a movie, but she's been kidnapped and taken to Fearlesslandia, so that's kind of upsetting to me. Outside of if this was a movie, I would say it's probably a toss up between Dear John, Last Kiss, and Mine. Or Enchanted. I can't pick. I literally can't pick. I've been having a Back to December renaissance lately because I've been spinning the album in preparation, but it's hard to choose. Those songs mean so much to me, and this was the first Taylor album release that I was really actively engaged in the fandom. So every song, literally every song except Superman on Speak Now, has a very special place in my heart, and I was obsessed with at some point in time. Like Haunted was my number one for years, and that really like wouldn't even factor into my top 5 now. Would you prefer the vault tracks to have no features? I feel like it ruins the legacy somehow. I think it's interesting to have features, and I think that it also, allows Taylor to have an edge on the marketing. I think Red TV didn't really need any features, but she had them anyway. Speak Now, like I said, is kind of like, it's not as though there is some incredible juice to uncover or a salacious story that has been waiting to be told. So she kind of does need to add an element of surprise or of expectation to it. And she's really leaning into that like nostalgia pop punk push and pull. I think that works for this record. I don't know. I have to hear the songs first. A song like That's When, that feature felt so unnecessary to me, but Nothing New with Phoebe Bridgers, that was kind of a good addition. Like I would still prefer to have Nothing New by itself because I think that song's very important, but I appreciated the difference that Phoebe brought to the track. How well do you think Taylor's voice will mesh with her collaborators? Now that is a case for the FBI. Can you imagine Hayley Williams and Taylor Swift singing on the same track? I always joke that Taylor's like scared that whoever she's singing with is going to eat her up, and that's why she doesn't let other girlies sing on the record, like when Lana Del Rey was a ghost on Snow on the Beach. But like, I can't imagine Hayley Williams and Taylor Swift singing together. Like, I just can't even imagine it sounding good. They have such different musical stylings. I find it hard to imagine Taylor adapting her voice to match Hayley's energy. But then again, she's become very like energetic, growly, and shouty as of late with her voice. Like it's become a lot stronger, more powerful, more resonant. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be her coming out sounding like Mariah Carey, but I don't think it's going to be a flop. I mean, I hope it's not. Do you think she'll replicate her country twang for songs like Ours and Mean? I didn't hear a lot of country twang on Fearless, and there was certainly more of it on that than Speak Now. So I think she's going to do kind of like a neutral accent with a country bend, maybe. She's going to have to ham it up a little bit for Mean. I hope she leans into the camp of it all because it's a silly song. It's an overdramatic young girl's firing back at a man who was like weirdly criticizing her for just being a person in this world. So I want her to lean into the campy fun of it, and if that means putting on a honky-tonk yeehaw accent one more time for the road, then I'm all here for it. But I don't know if she will be able to like overcome the secondhand embarrassment of doing that, because it is kind of embarrassing in a loving way, but like still cringe. If the vault tracks are really so good, why the heck were they discarded so Superman could be on the deluxe? Why is You're Not Sorry on Fearless? Why is Change on Fearless when Mr. Perfectly Fine could be on Fearless? Some of these things are a mystery to me, or they're like reruns of songs that already made it onto the standard edition. That's kind of my main hypothesis with this. But most of the time, we all have to admit, like 8 times out of 10, the vault tracks shouldn't really have been on the standard edition of the album. Do you beg to differ? Let me know. I'm getting lots and lots of questions about the whole John Mayer of it all. How is Taylor okay with this now? Why did she sing Would've, Could've, Should've and Dear John on tour? And how can she possibly pretend that she's over the situation? I think that 2 things can be true at once. She can still feel like deeply wounded and changed by something that was done to her, while also having made her peace with the person that did it to her, and also maybe having enough distance from a situation to think of it in a way that it's not so attached to the person. It's more kind of like an event that happened to you in your life. And I also think that like as an artist, sometimes just from my own perspective as a writer, when I write about something that has hurt me or a person maybe that has like upset me in some way, I kind of get into that headspace to write the art or to create the art. And then when the art is done, I just go back to living my normal life. And that's my way that I cope and process something that was hurting to me. So I know she keeps saying like the tomb won't close and Would've, Could've, Should've, but her willingness to perform these songs live and to be proud of them and to stand out in front of them, to me suggests that she can, click back into her hurt in order to perform a song or to create a piece of art, but also that like she has moved on and grown and like developed and changed as a person and is able to, maturely conceptualize that, sometimes people do bad things and it doesn't always make them a bad person. Now, I am not saying that applies to John Mayer because I personally do think he's a bad person, but I'm just saying that I think that she's made her peace with him specifically specifically. The situation may still have upset her or just be like an inconquerable fork in the road, something that changed her, whether she wanted it to or wanted to let it change her or not. But I do think that she, is an adult and has moved on from that being like the center of her hurt. I think that she's been more significantly hurt by other situations in her life, by people that she trusted more and had deeper and more long-lasting connections with. The hurt that I think is not going to close and that I think is going to go on for a long time is what happened with Scott Borchetta. Like, he really is the man we should be targeting all of our hateful energy towards. I think Taylor would rather us focus our negative energy on something productive, like getting her master's back. So let me do my prayer. I haven't done my prayer in so long. Dear Lord, thank you for the blessing of the food we're about to receive next week. And we just want to make sure that Scott Borchetta and Scooter Braun are having a really horrible day today and are experiencing something bad. And for that, we thank you, dear Lord. Amen. Do you think she'll give the profits of Better Than Revenge to the Camila Bell Foundation for the Unemployed? Messy boots. Messy boots. I didn't say that. Someone else sent it to me. I won't respond. But you are messy boots. What tracks do you think she'll put her whole body into, and which songs do you think she'll do wrong? Okay, so she has to put everything into Enchanted. I am hoping that she puts everything into Mine. From the 7-second snippet that we have, it sounds like she gave it a good go. Whether or not that ends up being good, I don't know. If this was a movie, to me, she put her whole body into that. I think she's going to put everything into Sparks Fly. I don't know that she's going to put everything into Back to December. I don't know why. I just get the feeling. Last Kiss, I think she knows we love that, but that has never stopped her from flopping before. So I don't know. Dear John, she's going to serve. I mean, the version that she performed was truly, that was really something out of this world. It was extraterrestrial, actually. What will she butcher? I think Innocent's going to get butchered. Kind of deserved. I don't know how Haunted is going to be. Haunted has a really complex string arrangement, and I think it sounds like it's being wailed by a young girl, which really helps it. So I don't know how that's going to sound. Long Live, I'm also not convinced is going to be good either. Those two songs, I'm like, they're little girl songs. Not little girl, but like young girl, young Taylor, Princess Taylor. And she can't really click back into that energy. She hasn't been able to so far that I've seen from Fearless, but you never know. I'll suspend my disbelief again until I hear. Do you think we'll have another Taylor Lautner track in the vault? I hope so. I hope that we get a little bit more clarity on her decision to ditch him so fast, because Back to December was interesting. We get a sense of accountability from her. We understand that it was her that did the leaving. But what I want to know is, what was his response? Because she doesn't really say that he put up a fight or that he was really upset. I mean, she's apologizing, so clearly he did get upset in Back to December. But I'm wondering if there's a more real-time explanation of what happened. I think she just kind of ghosted him. It was like early ghosting. I think that's probably what happened. What do you think the impact on social media will be, especially compared to Red Taylor's version? I think that it's not going to make as big a splash as Red Taylor's version. To my knowledge, she hasn't booked any talk show appearances. In fact, I think all the talk shows are not running right now because of the writer's strike. So the promotion is going to look a little bit different. I mean, some direct fan engagement would be nice. I would love her to do an Instagram live or a TikTok live and just talk to us, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the natural hubbub that comes every weekend with the Eras Tour shows, she'll do something special. She'll bring Hayley Williams. Maybe she'll do Enchanted in its entirety. Maybe she'll screen one of the short films or the music videos at a concert. That seems pretty likely. She did that with Karma. Or she'll bring out Hayley Williams or Fall Out Boy as a guest. That's another thing that she'll do. That all worked really well for the Midnight's 3 a.m. edition promo. So I think she's just going to follow that blueprint. And I think that the social media impact will, make a splash. Do I think it's going to have the same critical acclaim that Red Taylor's version had? No, probably not. The reason why Red Taylor's version was such an event was because it really captured the imagination of the music critics and kind of proved to the industry at large that this re-recordings project was something very unique and very distinct and worth taking seriously. Do you think this album is Taylor's favorite? If yes, why? No, I do not think this is Taylor's favorite. Taylor is very motivated by two things: critical acclaim and commercial success. Speak Now received critical appreciation, not acclaim. I think also a lot of the early albums, from the first 3 albums, were met with kind of a latent misogyny. This was before the wokeification of the music industry. Places that reviewed serious music, like Pitchfork, didn't even deign to consider Taylor Swift until Reputation. So the reviews of Speak Now, if I remember correctly, were all kind of this is pretty good stuff for a young teenage girl. She's got something good. It was never there was a serious engagement from adults with this as a piece of art. So I think that is frustrating to her. And the first time she got a kind of critical acclaim where she was compared to an artist like Joni Mitchell, or really given some credibility that she was able to sink her teeth into and kind of use to bolster her as a serious artist, was with Red, especially with songs like All Too Well and, you know, the various other kind of like heartbroken moments there. But there's so much richness to dig into on Speak Now. It's a real transitional album to me, like between times of your life, between ages and eras of your life. I think that it is probably her best album, just from a writing perspective. I mean, it's such an accomplishment that she wrote it all on her own to prove and make a point, but I don't think that it's her favorite. Her favorite, I think, at the moment is Folklore, and we can clearly see that on the Eras tour. It feels like Taylor's album visual aesthetics have improved ever since Midnights. Do you mean including Midnights? Because the Midnights visuals are kind of boring. The Speak Now artwork is very promising. I love the album shoot. I think that it's a really faithful but unique and contemporary interpretation of that album and what that album meant to all of us and to her. So I'm hoping that these videos are going to be better, but I don't like these drab color palettes that she's been working with lately. I need something brighter. I need something happier, or something darker even, you know, something a little bit more reputation-y for one of the Fall Out Boy Hayley Williams collaborations. I mean, the shots that we got from the Liverpool behind the scenes looks a little bit dark. It looks a little bit edgy. There's an exploding building. She's in her gold dress. Like, I hold out hopes for that, but we'll see. I think I ranted and raved about Speak Now for too long, and I'm just about to go and record some stuff for my podcast, Evolution of a Snake. Definitely go check that out if you're interested, because we're going to be doing an in-depth recap of Speak Now Taylor's version very soon. And don't forget to use code Swiftologist to get 3 months and 83% off of your Surfshark experience. You all need a VPN. I need you to get on it. Protect yourselves, support me, and I will see you next week with my Speak Now album reaction. I can't believe that it's finally here. I'm so excited. And I hope that you will subscribe and stick around. Also, leave me a comment and let me know what Eras tour shows you're going to try and go to if you want to go to an international date, and which of the vault tracks you're most excited for and most scared to listen to. Okay, goodbye.